All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know, we love to go deep on really interesting topics, and today is no exception. Today, we're talking all about memory and focus.
Yeah, two super important things, especially in our busy modern world.
Totally. It seems like everyone is looking for that edge, that extra boost to help them remember more, focus better.
There are tons of apps out there, supplements, even, some more extreme measures that people are trying.
And we're going to explore all of that and more in this deep dive, pulling from the book Brain Hacks Improve Memory and Focus Naturally.
Yes, naturally, because that's what we're really interested in here, right? How to boost our brain power without relying on, quick fixes or expensive gadgets.
Exactly. We want to tap into our brain's natural potential. And the cool thing is, this book is packed with techniques to do just that. And let me tell you, some of these are so surprising, even a little out there.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some unconventional methods, things you might not expect, but the science behind them is really solid and the results can be pretty amazing.
And to kick things off, why don't we start with the foundation of good brain health? Sleep.
Right, sleep. It's so much more than just feeling rested. When we sleep, our brains are hard at work, consolidating memories, clearing out toxins, all the things that keep our minds sharp.
So it's like hitting the save button on everything we've learned and experienced during the day.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Mm.
And it's not just about quantity, although getting enough sleep is crucial, but also quality. We need to be getting that deep, restorative sleep where the real magic happens.
Okay, so how much are we talking here? I mean, we hear a lot about getting 7, 8 hours. Is that the magic number?
That's a good starting point for sure.
Yeah.
Harvard Medical School actually did a study that found that consistently getting 7 to 9 hours can boost your focus by up to 30% and significantly improve memory recall.
Wow, 30%. That's huge. Okay, so I'm sold on getting enough sleep, but how do we actually make that happen? I mean, with our busy lives, it can be hard to prioritize those 8 hours.
It's definitely a challenge, but there are some simple things we can do to improve our sleep hygiene, to kind of set the stage for a good night's rest. And the book actually recommends a really helpful framework for this, the 10-3-2-1-0 rule.
All right, 10-3-2-1-0. I love it when things are easy to remember. What does it stand for?
So 10 hours before you want to be asleep, you cut out caffeine. It can take that long for it to clear your system, and caffeine can seriously mess with your sleep cycles.
So no more late night coffee for me, man, that's going to be tough. But okay, for better sleep, I'm willing to try. What about the three?
3 hours before bed, no more food. Eating a heavy meal too close to bedtime can really interfere with sleep quality, making it harder for your brain to do all those important restorative processes.
Okay, got it. No late night snacking. 2 hours before bed. What's the rule there?
Work down. That means no more emails, no more to-do list. Just give your mind a chance to unwind and detach from the stresses of the day. Continuing to work right up until bedtime keeps your brain in that high gear, making it much harder to fall asleep.
Oh, I am so guilty of this. I'm always checking emails in bed, trying to get ahead of the day. But I see how that could be backfiring, keeping my brain all wired when it should be winding down.
Absolutely. And this next one is probably the most challenging for a lot of people, including myself.
No screens for an hour before bed, right?
You got it. That blue light from our phones, our laptops, it tricks our brains into thinking it's still daytime, which suppresses the production of melatonin. And melatonin is crucial for regulating our sleep-wake cycle, helping us drift off to sleep naturally.
Okay, I gotta confess, that one is a struggle for me too. I'm always scrolling through social media before bed, telling myself it's relaxing, but really it's probably doing more harm than good.
A lot of us do it. It
Okay.
just becomes such a habit. But if we can create that screen-free hour before bed, even if it's just reading a book or taking a bath, it can make a world of difference in our sleep quality.
Okay, I'm convinced. No screens for an hour before bed. What about the last number? 0.
That's the simplest, but often the hardest. Zero means zero hitting of the snooze button in the morning. Resist the urge to steal those few extra minutes because those fragmented bits of sleep aren't really helping you at all.
Yeah, I've heard that those snooze button minutes are actually more disruptive than helpful. It's better to just get up and start the day. So no more snooze button battles for me. Okay, so we've covered sleep, setting the foundation for a healthy brain. But what about fuel? What are the best brain boosting foods? And maybe more importantly, what are the things we should be avoiding?
That's a great question, and that brings us to our next brain hack: nutrition. Our brains are incredibly complex organs, and they require a steady supply of nutrients to function at their best.
I'm guessing sugary drinks are not on the menu.
Not if you want a high-performing brain. The book actually highlights this, saying that even one sugary drink can actually decrease brain function for up to an hour. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Wow, I had no idea the impact was that significant.
Yeah.
All right, so what are the brain-powering foods we should be loading up on?
Well, think about foods that are rich in antioxidants, healthy fats, the things that nourish and protect our brain cells. So things like omega-3 fatty acids, which you can find in salmon, walnuts, chia seeds. Those are like a superfood for your brain,
Yeah.
improving memory and overall cognitive function.
Okay, those are all things I try to include in my diet. What else?
Blueberries. They're packed with antioxidants, and those are like little bodyguards for our brain cells, protecting them from damage.
I love blueberries. I add them to my yogurt every morning.
Perfect. And then leafy greens, things like spinach, kale, they're full of vitamin K and folate, which have been shown to enhance memory.
So a colorful plate is the way to go for a healthy brain. I'm starting to get the picture. And I'm also realizing that maybe those sugary snacks I've been reaching for when I'm tired might actually be backfiring.
It's very possible. You know, processed sugar and those highly processed carbs, they give you that quick burst of energy, but then you crash hard. It's not sustainable for your brain. You end up feeling sluggish, unfocused, and it can actually make it harder to think clearly.
So steady, consistent energy from those nutrient-rich foods is the key to a high-performing brain. Okay, I'm on board with that. Now I'm really curious about the next brain hack. You mentioned earlier that some of these techniques might be a little surprising, a little unconventional.
Oh, yeah. And this next one definitely falls into that category. It's called the Pomodoro technique.
The Pomodoro technique, like the tomato.
Exactly. The name comes from the Italian word for tomato because the creator of the technique used a tomato-shaped kitchen timer. It's all about working with your brain's natural rhythms instead of against them.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
I'm all for working smarter, not harder. Tell me more. How does it actually work? Do I need a tomato timer?
No, any timer will do. But the idea is that you set a timer for 25 minutes and you focus intensely on a single task. No distractions, no multitasking, just pure, focused work. And when the timer goes off, you take a short break, maybe 5 minutes.
That's it. That sounds pretty simple. But is it really that effective? Is it better than just powering through for hours on end?
You might think so. But our brains aren't really designed for that kind of sustained focus. We naturally crave breaks and periods of rest.
Okay, so like a sprinter versus a marathon runner. Short bursts of energy are more effective than trying to sustain that high intensity for long periods?
That's a great way to put it. And the Pomodoro technique taps into that natural rhythm, allowing your brain to work in those short, focused intervals, preventing that mental fatigue and actually strengthening your memory.
Interesting. I'm definitely going to try incorporating that into my workday. I mean, who wouldn't want to boost their memory and prevent burnout at the same time? Now, I think our next brain hack is one that most people are already familiar with.
Are you thinking about exercise?
Exactly. It's no secret that exercise is good for us, both physically and mentally. But I'm always curious to learn more about how it specifically benefits our brains.
Well, think of exercise as a way to supercharge your brain's circulatory system. When you get your heart pumping, you're increasing blood flow to the brain, delivering a fresh supply of oxygen and nutrients.
So it's like hitting the reset button on our brains. I always feel so much more alert and clear-headed after a good workout.
Yeah, you're experiencing the power of that increased blood flow, plus the release of endorphins, which are those feel-good chemicals that elevate your mood and help reduce stress.
Okay, so exercise is like a win-win for our brains. And the book mentions a study from the University of British Columbia, right?
Yeah, they found that aerobic exercise can actually increase the size of the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain responsible for memory, by an impressive 2%.
Wait, so our brains are literally growing when we exercise. That's incredible. So what kind of exercise are we talking here? Is it all about cardio?
Cardio is definitely great for brain health. Things like running, swimming, cycling, all those get your heart rate up and boost that blood flow. But strength training is important too. Lifting weights has been shown to have cognitive benefits as well.
So it's not just about physical strength, it's about mental strength as well. I like that.
Exactly. And, you know, yoga is another great option. It's a really nice blend of physical movement, mindfulness, and deep breathing, which can all contribute to a healthier brain.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to get moving. But now I'm really curious about that brain hack you teased at the beginning, the one you said could change how we think.
Ready to dive into the world of cold showers?
Cold showers? Wait, what? You're telling me that standing under freezing cold water is good for my brain? Okay, I'm going to need some convincing on this one. I mean, I love a nice hot shower, especially in the morning. How could a cold shower possibly benefit my brain?
Well, I get it. Cold showers, they don't exactly sound like a fun time, especially first thing in the morning. But there's actually some pretty fascinating science behind it.
Okay, you've got my attention. What's going on in our brains when we take a cold shower? I mean, besides waking us up with a jolt.
Well, it triggers a surge of norepinephrine in the brain.
Norepinephrine? Remind me, what's that again?
It's a neurotransmitter, like
Hmm.
a chemical messenger in the brain. And it plays a huge role in focus, alertness, mental clarity.
Ah, so it's kind of like our brains get up and go juice.
Exactly. And cold showers can actually increase norepinephrine levels by, get this, 200 to 300%.
Wait, seriously, 200 to 300%, that's a massive boost. Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. But how does it actually work? Is it just the shock to the system that wakes up the brain, or is there more to it?
It's more than just a shock. Cold exposure actually triggers this physiological response that increases blood flow to the brain. It's similar to what happens when you exercise, but cold showers also reduce inflammation throughout the body, including the brain.
So it's like a double whammy of brain benefits, increased blood flow and reduced inflammation. Okay, I'm starting to come around to this cold shower idea, but let's be real. The thought of standing under freezing cold water, especially in the morning, it's a little daunting. Any tips for easing into it?
You definitely don't have to go all in right away. Start small. Just add like 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your regular hot shower. And then as you get used to it, you can gradually increase the duration.
All right, challenge accepted. I'm willing to give it a try, especially for a potential 200% boost in norepinephrine. That's hard to pass up. Now, let's switch gears a bit and talk about a brain hack that sounds a little more, well, relaxing. We touched on it briefly when we talked about yoga, but I think it deserves its own spotlight: mindfulness.
Yeah, mindfulness is such a powerful tool for both memory and focus. It's all about being present in the moment, without judgment.
I've definitely heard about mindfulness and meditation, but I always thought of it as something you do for stress relief, not necessarily for boosting brain power. How are they connected?
Well, you're right. Mindfulness is great for stress reduction. And chronic stress is a huge contributor to brain fog and difficulty concentrating. When we're stressed, our minds are racing, we're jumping from one worry to the next, and it makes it almost impossible to focus.
Oh, tell me about it. When I'm stressed, it feels like my brain is going a mile a minute, but in a bad way,
Yeah.
like a hamster on a wheel.
That's a perfect analogy. Mindfulness helps to kind of quiet that mental chatter, bring you back to the present moment. It's like hitting the pause button on the hamster wheel and just allowing your mind to settle. And when your mind is calm and focused, you're able to absorb information better, make decisions, even tap into your creativity more easily.
So, how do we actually practice mindfulness? Is it all about meditation? I'll be honest, I've tried meditation before, and I always find my mind wandering.
Meditation is one way, but it's not the only way. Even just 5 minutes of deep breathing every day can make a huge difference. The book recommends a simple technique called box breathing.
Box breathing. Okay, tell me more. I love a simple technique.
It's really easy. You inhale slowly for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale slowly for 4, and then hold again for 4. It's like you're tracing the sides of a box with your breath.
Okay, I can picture that. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Simple, but why is it so effective? What's the science behind it?
Deep breathing exercises like this activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the system that's responsible for calming us down, putting us in a state of relaxation. So it's like switching from that fight or flight mode to rest and digest mode.
So it's like hitting the reset button on our stress levels, and then our brains can actually shift into a more focused and receptive state. I'm starting to see how all these, seemingly simple techniques can have a big impact on our brains. Okay, so we've covered sleep, nutrition, the Pomodoro technique, exercise, cold showers, and mindfulness. What's the final brain hack in our deep dive today?
This last one might be the most enjoyable, learning something new.
Ooh, I love learning new things, but how does that translate to better memory and focus?
Well, think of your brain as a muscle that gets stronger with exercise. Every time you learn something new, you're essentially giving your brain a workout. You're creating new neural pathways and strengthening those connections.
So the more we challenge our brains, the stronger and more adaptable they become.
Exactly. And the book calls this embracing neuroplasticity, which is just the brain's amazing ability to rewire and reorganize itself throughout our lives.
Mhm.
So it's never too late to learn something new and reap those cognitive benefits.
I love that. It means we're not stuck with a fixed amount of brain power. We can actually expand our cognitive abilities. So what kinds of activities are we talking about here?
It could really be anything that interests you and engages your mind. The book suggests learning to play an instrument, picking up a new language, maybe trying a new sport.
You know what? I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. Maybe this is my sign.
There you go. It's not just about acquiring a new skill, it's about expanding your mental horizons, keeping your brain active, and preventing cognitive decline.
And who knows, maybe I'll discover some hidden talent I never knew I had. Now, before we wrap up this section, I want to touch on something the book mentions, and I think it's important. It talks about the dangers of chronic stress and how it can actually negatively impact our brains.
Yeah, chronic stress is a real brain drain. It can really steal our cognitive abilities. When we're constantly stressed, our bodies release cortisol.
Cortisol, the stress hormone, right?
Right. And while cortisol can be helpful in short bursts, it helps us respond to threats, but prolonged exposure to high levels of cortisol can actually damage the hippocampus.
And that's the part of the brain that's responsible for memory formation.
Exactly. So it's not just that we feel overwhelmed and frazzled when we're stressed. Stress is actually shrinking our brains.
Okay, that's a little scary. So, along with all these awesome brain hacks for boosting our cognitive function, we also need to be mindful of managing stress to protect our brains in the long run.
Absolutely. Stress management is essential for anyone who wants to optimize their brain health.
Okay, so we've got these 7 incredible brain hacks: sleep, nutrition, the Pomodoro technique, exercise, cold showers, mindfulness, and learning, all backed by science and totally doable. But we also need to be mindful of that stress and manage it effectively. This has been such an amazing deep dive into the world of brain health. It feels like we're just scratching the surface, though, right? Welcome back to the deep dive. Exploring these brain hacks with you has really gotten me thinking about just how amazing our brains really are. It's like we all have this untapped potential just waiting to be unlocked.
What's so fascinating is that our brains are always evolving and rewiring themselves based on, our experiences and the choices we make every
It's
day.
not like we're stuck with this fixed amount of brain power. We can actually shape and mold our brains. It's kind of crazy to think about.
It is. It means we have this responsibility to really nourish our brains and challenge them, to help them thrive.
And all these brain hacks really give us a roadmap for doing that. It's like we've been given the instruction manual for our brains finally.
One of the things that really struck me as we were getting ready for this deep dive was how learning new things can physically change the structure of our brains.
It's mind-blowing. It's like our brains are constantly growing, becoming more and more complex with each new experience.
It really makes you wonder if something like learning a new language can actually change our brain structure, what other things that we do every day are shaping our minds in ways that we don't even realize?
That's a great question. It makes you realize how much power we have over our own cognitive destiny.
Exactly. So much more than we think.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a little challenge.
Ooh, I like challenges.
Take what we've learned today and actually apply it to your own life. Experiment with these techniques. See what works best for you and watch how your memory improves, your focus gets sharper, and your mind just expands.
And remember, this is a journey. There are going to be days when you're crushing it and days when you maybe slip up a little.
We all have those days.
But the most important thing is to keep learning, keep challenging yourself, because our brains thrive on that.
So well said. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be sharing your own brain hacks with the world. But until then, keep on learning, keep exploring, and keep those brains buzzing. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.